Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into the fascinating world of Jefferson nickels, one of the most collected and talked about U.S. coins. If you are a coin collector, a history lover, or just curious about valuable nickels that could be sitting in your pocket change, you're in the right place. Jefferson nickels have an incredible history, hidden rarities, and surprising values that many people don't know about. Some of these coins can be worth much more than face value. And in this video, I'll share important details you need to know about these valuable Jefferson nickels. So stay with me until the very end, because you don't want to miss the information that could make a big difference in your coin collection. And if you enjoy learning about rare and valuable coins, make sure to hit the subscribe button right now so you never miss my latest uploads. Let's get started. First up, the 1962 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is one of those fascinating coins in U.S. coinage history that every collector and coin enthusiast should know about. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, and while millions of these coins were produced, collectors today are often surprised to learn that certain examples of the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark can be valuable and worth far more than their face value of 5 cents. When people think of nickels, they often assume they're just everyday pocket change, but when it comes to older Jefferson nickels, like the 1962 Denver issue, there are key details that can make a huge difference in value. For anyone who has inherited old coins, or for those who search their change for hidden treasures, understanding what makes the 1962 D Jefferson nickel valuable is very important. The Jefferson nickel series started in 1938, and by 1962, it had already become a common part of American coinage. The obverse features the well-known portrait of Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, while the reverse displays Monticello, Jefferson's famous home. These design elements may look familiar to anyone who has handled a U.S. nickel, but the age and condition of the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark make it stand out to coin collectors. While billions of Jefferson nickels have been minted over the decades, finding coins from 1962 in excellent condition or with sharp strikes can add serious value to what might otherwise appear to be an ordinary nickel. This is why collectors are always looking closely at older nickels, especially those with Denver mint marks. The D mint mark on the 1962 Jefferson nickel is located on the reverse of the coin to the right of Monticello, near the rim. This little letter holds big importance because it identifies the coin as having been struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most active mints in the United States. The Denver Mint produced a very large number of these coins in 1962. But even with high mintage, the survival of coins in top quality is not guaranteed. Circulation, wear, and time have reduced the number of well-preserved pieces, which makes coins in pristine condition more sought after today. Many collectors underestimate the role of mint marks, but in the case of the Jefferson nickel, knowing whether a coin came from Denver or Philadelphia is key to understanding its collectible and potential monetary value. When talking about the value of a 1962 D Jefferson nickel, condition plays the most important role. Coins that are heavily circulated and worn down will usually only be worth face value, but coins in uncirculated or near uncirculated condition can carry much higher values. Collectors are always interested in coins that have strong luster, clear details, and minimal marks or scratches. These qualities increase the desirability of the coin and push its value higher. That is why it is always important to take a close look at your coins and examine their condition carefully. A sharp, well-struck 1962 D Jefferson nickel can bring far more attention than a worn-out example. Another detail that adds to the value of Jefferson nickels is the presence of errors and varieties. Error coins occur during the minting process and can include things like off-center strikes, double-die errors, or problems with the planchet. If you ever come across a 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark that has a noticeable error, that coin can be significantly more valuable than the standard issue coin. Collectors love error nickels because they are rare and unique, and the 1962 Denver Mint issue is no exception. Even though errors may not be extremely common, they are always worth looking out for, especially when it comes to older coins that might still be hiding in collections or even circulation. The historical background of the 1962 D Jefferson nickel also adds to its appeal. By the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint was striking coins in very large numbers to meet the demands of a growing economy. Despite this, the coins from this era still have a charm that makes them attractive to collectors today. The Jefferson nickel itself is one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history, and owning a piece from 1962 is like holding a small part of mid-20th century America in your hand. For collectors who build complete sets of Jefferson nickels, the 1962D is an important piece to add, and condition, again, becomes the driving factor in its value. Collectors also pay attention to the overall strike quality of the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. Sometimes coins are struck with weak details, especially around Jefferson's hair on the obverse or the steps of Monticello on the reverse. A coin that shows full details, especially those known as full steps on Monticello, can command a much higher price. Full steps nickels are highly collectible, and the 1962 Denver issue is no exception. These coins show sharp, complete step lines on Monticello, and because they are harder to find, they are much more desirable among serious collectors. When it comes to rarity, the 1962D Jefferson nickel might not be considered rare in terms of total mintage, but rarity in the coin market is always connected to condition and demand. Millions of coins were made, but only a small percentage remain in the kind of quality that collectors really want. This is what makes searching through old coins so exciting, because there's always the chance of finding a valuable example in excellent condition. For those who enjoy coin roll hunting or going through inherited coin jars, the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is definitely a coin worth keeping an eye out for. The metal composition of the 1962 D Jefferson nickel is another interesting aspect. These nickels were made of a copper-nickel alloy, unlike earlier wartime nickels, which contained silver. While they do not carry intrinsic silver value, their collectible value is what makes them special. Collectors are not just looking for the metal, but for the history, condition, and uniqueness of the coin. That's why the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark continues to be sought after by those who appreciate U.S. coinage history. Every coin tells a story, and the 1962 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark tells the story of a period in America when the Jefferson design was firmly established as the face of the nickel. For decades, people used these coins in everyday transactions without realizing that some would later be seen as valuable collectibles. Today, those who understand the details know that certain 1962D nickels are far more than just pocket change. They represent history, artistry, and potential value that collectors should never overlook. So whenever you come across a Jefferson nickel from 1962 with a D mint mark, take a closer look. Check the condition, check for strong details, and always be on the lookout for errors or varieties. Remember that while not every coin will be worth a fortune, some examples are truly valuable. The Jefferson nickel remains a favorite among collectors because it offers history, variety, and opportunity, and the 1962 Denver Mint issue is a perfect example of why coin collecting can be so rewarding. Next up, the 1992 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark is one of those fascinating coins that many people still overlook, yet collectors know it can carry surprising value depending on its condition, details, and rarity. This coin was minted at the Philadelphia Mint in 1992, and while millions of these nickels were struck, certain examples have gained attention in the coin collecting community. When most people think of nickels, they assume they are worth only 5 cents, but the truth is that the 1992 Jefferson nickel with the P mint mark can be worth far more than its face value. Understanding why this coin is valuable is the key to appreciating its place in American coinage history. The Jefferson nickel series has been around since 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel, and it has become one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. By 1992, the design still featured the familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his famous home, Monticello, on the reverse. What makes the 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark important is not just the design, but the details collectors look for, such as sharp strikes, clean surfaces, and possible full steps on Monticello. These details can turn what looks like an ordinary nickel into a valuable piece for collectors. The Philadelphia Mint mark, shown as a small P on the reverse of the coin to the right of Monticello, is a key identifier, And this mint mark is one of the reasons why collectors pay attention to the 1992 issue. When we talk about value, condition is always the first thing collectors consider. A heavily circulated 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark that has seen years of use in everyday transactions will usually only be worth face value. But coins in higher grades, especially uncirculated or near uncirculated examples, can be worth much more. Collectors seek coins with bright luster, minimal marks, and sharp details. In particular, the reverse design of Monticello can reveal how well the coin was struck, and those that show the full steps variety are especially valuable. Full steps Jefferson nickels are highly collectible because they indicate an exceptional strike quality, and finding one from 1992 with the P mint mark can make it worth far more than an average nickel. Another reason the 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark is valuable is the presence of error coins and varieties. During the minting process, mistakes can happen, and those mistakes create coins that collectors love to find. Errors like double die obverse or reverse, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, or clip planchets can all exist for nickels from this time period. If you happen to come across a 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark that has one of these errors, its value can increase dramatically. Error coins are always unique and rare, and this adds to their appeal in the coin market. Even if the majority of 1992 nickels are common, an error or variety can transform one coin into a valuable collectible. Collectors also appreciate the historical context of the 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark. The early 1990s were a time when the U.S. Mint was producing coins in very high numbers, but high mintages do not always guarantee high survival rates in pristine condition. Most coins went straight into circulation, which means that truly well-preserved coins are scarcer than people realize. That scarcity in top quality is what drives value. While the Philadelphia Mint struck millions of nickels in 1992, only a small fraction remain in uncirculated condition with full steps details or unique errors, and those are the coins collectors are willing to pay more for. The composition of the 1992 Jefferson nickel is also worth noting. It was struck in the standard copper-nickel alloy, which had been used since after World War II, giving the coin durability for everyday use. While it does not contain silver like the wartime nickels of the 1940s, the collectible value of the 1992 nickel with P mint mark comes from its condition, rarity of varieties, and demand among collectors, rather than intrinsic metal value. People often underestimate coins without precious metal content, but serious collectors know that history and condition are what give these coins value. When examining your 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark, there are several details to look closely at. On the obverse, check Jefferson's portrait for sharpness, especially around his hair and cheek. On the reverse, look carefully at Monticello's steps. If the steps are clear, sharp, and uninterrupted, then you may have a full steps nickel, which is far more desirable. Also, inspect the coin for any unusual markings, doubling, or striking anomalies. Even small details can make the difference between a 5-cent coin and a valuable collectible that could be worth several dollars or more to the right buyer. Another aspect of value comes from collector sets. Many collectors try to build complete Jefferson nickel collections by year and mint mark, and the 1992 P nickel is a necessary coin to fill that spot. Even though it may seem common, completing sets drives demand for coins in better condition. For those who want every nickel from every year and mint, having a high-quality 1992 Philadelphia example is essential. That demand adds to its value, especially when high-grade coins are harder to find than expected. Rarity in coin collecting is not always about total mintage, but about condition rarity. The 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark may not be rare in absolute numbers, but it is far less common in pristine condition with strong strike details. This is why collectors often submit these coins to close examination, searching for top-quality examples that stand out from the millions that circulated. It only takes one coin in the right condition to be worth a surprising amount, and that is why this nickel should never be ignored. The Jefferson nickel has been part of American life for so long that many people handle them every day without realizing how valuable some can be. The 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark is a perfect example of a modern coin that, under the right circumstances, can be worth far more than its face value. Whether it is because of exceptional condition, full steps detail, or an unusual error, these coins deserve attention from collectors and casual searchers alike. Holding on to them, checking them carefully, and understanding their history can turn pocket change into a valuable treasure. So the next time you come across a 1992 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark, don't dismiss it as just another 5-cent coin. Take the time to study it, because you might be holding a valuable piece of coinage history. These coins remain an important part of the Jefferson nickel series, and they continue to attract interest from collectors who know that value can be hidden in the smallest details. The 1992 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark proves that even modern coins can be valuable, and that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. Next up, the 1963 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is one of those coins that may look like ordinary pocket change at first glance, but collectors know it can actually be valuable depending on its details, strike, and condition. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, and the D mint mark can be seen on the reverse of the coin to the right of Monticello. Millions of these coins were struck, but survival in pristine condition is what makes the 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark important to coin collectors today. Many people assume that nickels from the early 1960s are not worth keeping. Yet the truth is that some examples of the 1963 D Jefferson nickel are worth much more than 5 cents. And learning what makes them valuable is essential for anyone interested in coin collecting or simply checking their change. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938 and quickly became one of the most recognized designs in United States coinage. By 1963, the design still featured Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. The Denver Mint produced a very large number of these coins that year, but despite the high mintage, collectors know that not all nickels are created equal. Strike quality, luster, and the presence of sharp details can dramatically increase the value of a 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. In particular, collectors look closely at Monticello's steps on the reverse. If the steps are full, clear, and unbroken, the coin is known as a full steps Jefferson nickel, and these are highly desirable. A full steps 1963 D Jefferson nickel is much harder to find than a typical circulated example, and that added rarity is what makes it valuable. Condition is always the key factor when talking about the value of the 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. A coin that has circulated heavily, showing wear and tear, will generally only be worth face value. But a coin that has been preserved in uncirculated condition, showing sharp details, strong luster, and minimal marks, can command much higher prices from collectors. Collectors often search coin rolls, old collections, and even pocket change, hoping to find one of these well-preserved nickels. It's this search that makes coin collecting exciting, because the possibility of finding a valuable coin, like the 1963 D Jefferson nickel, keeps people checking their change. Another important factor that adds to the value of the 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is the presence of errors and varieties. Error coins can occur during the minting process, and they can include double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, clip planchets, and other unusual features. These mint errors are rare and often unique, which makes them highly collectible. If you ever come across a 1963 D Jefferson nickel that shows a striking error, it could be worth much more than a normal example. Collectors are always eager to pay premiums for error coins because they represent something out of the ordinary. That's why it is always important to look carefully at your coins, even those that seem common. The history of the 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark also adds to its appeal. In the early 1960s, the U.S. Mint was producing coins in very large numbers to keep up with demand. But that doesn't mean all of those coins have survived in great condition. Most went into circulation and became worn. So finding a coin that has been preserved in high grade is much less common. For collectors who build complete Jefferson nickel sets by date and mint mark, the 1963 Denver issue is an important piece. Having it in top condition, with sharp strike details and possibly full steps, makes it even more desirable and valuable. The composition of the 1963 Jefferson nickel is the standard copper-nickel alloy used throughout most of the series, making the coin durable but not intrinsically valuable for its metal content. Its collectible value comes from the numismatic side, condition, strike quality, rarity of varieties, and demand. Many people mistakenly assume that coins without silver or gold cannot be valuable, but collectors know that a 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark in the right condition or with the right characteristics can absolutely be worth more than its face value. This is why searching through even ordinary-looking nickels can lead to surprising finds. Collectors also pay attention to details on the obverse of the 1963 D Jefferson nickel. Jefferson's portrait can sometimes appear weakly struck, especially in the hair and cheek area. A coin that shows strong details on the portrait is much more desirable than one that is poorly struck. Combined with strong details on Monticello's steps on the reverse, this makes for a coin that collectors truly want. This is why full steps examples are so valuable. They demonstrate both strong striking quality and excellent preservation, which are rare together. Rarity in coin collecting does not always mean low mintage. The 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark had a very high mintage, but the real rarity comes from condition rarity. Very few coins have survived the decades in pristine, uncirculated condition with full steps. This is what drives collectors to pay premiums for the best examples. Even among millions of coins, finding one in exceptional condition is like finding a needle in a haystack, and that is why collectors value them so highly. For those who enjoy coin roll hunting or searching through inherited coin collections, the 1963 D Jefferson nickel is a coin you should always look out for. It is common enough to still appear in circulation, but uncommon in the kinds of conditions that make it truly valuable. That combination of availability and potential rarity makes it an exciting coin to search for. You never know when you might come across an example that stands out from the rest. So, whenever you come across a 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark, don't just assume it's worth 5 cents. Take the time to look closely at its details. Check for strong luster. Check for sharp details in Jefferson's portrait. And always look carefully at Monticello's steps. If you find a coin with full steps, you may be holding a valuable collectible. If you discover an rare variety, you could have a coin worth far more than you expect. And if your coin is in uncirculated condition with minimal marks, that alone makes it worth more to collectors who value quality. The 1963 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark proves that even a coin that seems ordinary can hold real value. It is a piece of U.S. coinage history that deserves attention, and for collectors, it remains a valuable part of any Jefferson nickel collection. Whether for its history, its errors, its condition rarity, or its strike details, this coin shows why collecting Jefferson nickels continues to be one of the most popular areas of numismatics. Next up, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with a P mint mark is one of those coins that most people overlook in everyday change, but collectors know it can actually be valuable depending on its condition, strike, and unique characteristics. This nickel was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, and the P mint mark appears on the reverse to the right of Monticello. At first glance, it may seem like just another 5-cent piece, yet the truth is that the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark can be worth far more than face value. Collectors and enthusiasts study this coin closely because certain examples have shown to be highly desirable, and understanding what makes them valuable can help anyone realize the hidden potential in coins that appear very common. The Jefferson nickel series, first struck in 1938, had already been part of American coinage for over 50 years by 1989. The familiar portrait of Thomas Jefferson still appeared on the obverse, and Monticello remained on the reverse, but it is the quality of strike and preservation that turns the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark into something far more than pocket change. Millions were produced in Philadelphia that year, but high mintage does not mean all are the same. Collectors look carefully for sharp strikes, strong details, and above all the presence of full steps on Monticello, which can dramatically increase value. A full steps 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark is far scarcer than worn examples, and that scarcity translates into higher value for collectors. Condition plays the most critical role in determining value. A heavily circulated 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark that has spent decades in pockets, wallets, and registers will usually only be worth 5 cents. But a coin that has been preserved in mint state condition with bright luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces is far more valuable. Collectors prize coins that show very little wear, and they are willing to pay premiums for the best examples. Even a modern nickel like the 1989 P can surprise collectors with its value if it is found in top condition, especially with the highly collectible full steps detail. Era coins from 1989 also add to the value of the Jefferson nickel with P mint mark. Mistakes during the minting process can create coins that are far rarer and more valuable than regular issues. Collectors search for double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die cracks, and clip planchets among 1989 nickels. If you find an era variety on a 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark, you may be holding a coin that is worth many times more than face value. These unique coins are always exciting because they break the pattern of mass production and give collectors something truly unusual to pursue. Another factor that increases the value of the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark is demand from collectors who build complete sets by year and mint mark. For them, the 1989 P is a necessary piece. While it might not seem rare in overall numbers, finding one in superb condition that meets the strict standards collectors want is not as easy as it may sound. This demand drives value upward, especially for coins that show exceptional preservation or strong strike quality. Collectors who aim for complete Jefferson nickel collections often pay special attention to later-date nickels like the 1989 P, because they are less likely to have been saved in large numbers when first minted. The history of the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark adds context to its collectible appeal. The late 1980s was a period of large mintages, yet even so, coins that survived in pristine condition are not as common as many people believe. Everyday circulation took its toll on these nickels, and decades of use left many of them scratched, worn, and dull. This is why uncirculated examples and coins showing full steps are so valuable today. They represent the best survivors from a massive mintage, and condition rarity always matters to collectors. Examining your 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark closely is essential. On the obverse, look at Jefferson's portrait, especially the details in his hair and cheek. A weak strike will show blending and softness in these areas, while a sharp strike will reveal much more definition. On the reverse, inspect Monticello carefully, focusing on the steps. If you see clear, complete steps without interruptions, you may have a full steps nickel, and that variety is far more valuable than the standard strike. Even small differences in detail can make a big difference in collectible value. The composition of the 1989 Jefferson nickel is the copper-nickel alloy, standard for the series after World War II, which means its metal content does not add much intrinsic value. However, this is why condition and collector demand matter so much. Even without silver or gold, coins like the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark can still be valuable because of their numismatic appeal. Collectors know that history, strike quality, and rarity of errors or full steps varieties determine true value, not just metal content. For those who enjoy coin roll hunting or searching through change, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark is a coin to watch for. It may still appear in circulation, but finding one in high grade or with an error is a real challenge. This challenge makes it exciting, because you never know when you might come across a nickel that looks ordinary, but is actually a valuable collectible. Many collectors started their journey by noticing coins like this and realizing they were holding something worth saving. So, when you encounter a 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark, don't dismiss it as just another nickel. Take the time to check its condition, look at the steps of Monticello, examine Jefferson's portrait, and see if there are any unusual markings or errors. Any one of these details could mean that you are holding a valuable coin. Collectors across the country continue to seek out these nickels because they know that even a coin from 1989 can carry value well beyond its face value. This is why the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P mint mark deserves attention and why it should never be overlooked. The Jefferson nickel remains one of the most popular U.S. coins to collect, and the 1989 Philadelphia issue shows exactly why. It combines history, condition rarity, and the potential for valuable varieties, making it a coin worth more than its denomination. Whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just beginning to look at coins more closely, the 1989 Jefferson nickel with P. mint mark is a coin that proves valuable treasures can be hidden in plain sight. Next up, the 1964 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is one of the most interesting coins from the Jefferson nickel series, and collectors know that it can be valuable depending on its details, strike, and condition. This coin was minted at the Denver Mint, and the small D mint mark can be seen on the reverse of the coin to the right of Monticello. While the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark was produced in extremely large numbers, it is still a coin worth paying close attention to, because certain examples are much more valuable than others. Collectors and coin enthusiasts study this coin closely, and understanding what makes it valuable can help anyone realize that even an ordinary-looking nickel can be worth far more than 5 cents. The Jefferson nickel series has been in circulation since 1938, and by 1964, it was already a familiar part of everyday American life. The obverse of the coin shows the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, and the reverse features his famous home, Monticello. Although billions of Jefferson nickels were produced in 1964, the details of strike quality and condition are what set valuable examples apart from ordinary ones. The 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is one of the most commonly collected dates in the series, not because of rarity in terms of mintage, but because condition rarity and varieties make certain examples stand out. Collectors know that coins from this year can be valuable if they are preserved in exceptional condition or if they display strong strike details, like full steps on Monticello. Condition is always the most important factor when determining the value of the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. Coins that were used heavily in circulation are usually only worth face value, but coins in higher grades, especially mint state examples, can be worth far more. Collectors look for nickels that have bright luster, minimal scratches, and sharp details. The reverse of the coin, in particular, tells a lot about strike quality. If Monticello steps are fully visible and show clear, uninterrupted lines, then the coin qualifies as a full steps nickel, and these are highly sought after by collectors. A 1964 D Jefferson nickel with full steps is much more valuable than a typical circulated coin, and that is why people pay close attention to this detail. Another reason the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark can be valuable is the existence of error coins and die varieties. Minting errors like double die obverse or reverse, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clip planchets can all make a coin unique and much more collectible. A 1964 D Jefferson nickel with a striking error will stand out from millions of ordinary coins, and collectors are willing to pay premiums for these rare pieces. Even though most of the 1964 nickels were struck normally, the chance of finding an error coin adds excitement and value to the search. Every collector knows that errors transform a common coin into something truly special. The historical context of the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark also adds to its importance. This was a transitional period in American coinage, just before silver was removed from dimes, quarters, and half dollars in 1965. Although the nickel did not contain silver, the 1964 issue represents a time when the U.S. Mint was striking coins in massive numbers to meet heavy demand. Billions of nickels were minted, yet condition rarity makes the best examples valuable today. For collectors who build complete sets of Jefferson nickels, the 1964 D is an essential coin, and having one in pristine condition makes the collection even stronger. The composition of the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is the standard copper-nickel alloy used for most of the series, which means its value does not come from precious metal content. Instead, the value is entirely numismatic, based on demand, condition, rarity of strike quality, and the presence of varieties. Collectors who specialize in Jefferson nickels know that even common dates can be valuable when the right conditions are met. That is why the 1964 Denver Mint issue continues to attract attention and why it should never be ignored. Collectors also pay close attention to strike quality on the obverse of the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. Jefferson's portrait sometimes shows weak details in the hair and cheek area due to strike issues. A coin with a strong, sharp strike will always be more desirable than one with weak or blurry details. When combined with full steps on Monticello, these features make a coin significantly more valuable. A sharp strike is not easy to find for this year, so coins with excellent detail stand out in the collector market. Even though the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark had one of the highest mintages in the entire series, rarity and top condition is what truly matters. Millions were struck, but very few survive today in pristine, uncirculated quality with sharp details. This is why collectors are willing to pay higher prices for the best examples. The challenge of finding a well-preserved coin from such a heavily produced year is what makes the search rewarding, and that challenge creates value. For those who enjoy coin roll hunting or searching through old change, the 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is a coin worth setting aside. While many examples are common, there's always the chance of finding one in exceptional condition or with an error that sets it apart. Collectors love the thrill of finding value in coins that others overlook, and this nickel is a perfect example of why careful searching pays off. The 1964 D Jefferson nickel proves that even coins with huge mintages can hide valuable treasures. So, whenever you come across a 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark, do not dismiss it as just another nickel. Examine it closely, check for strike quality, look at Monticello's steps, and inspect Jefferson's portrait. If you find a coin with full steps, or if you discover an error variety, you may be holding something far more valuable than pocket change. Even without errors, a 1964 D Jefferson nickel in uncirculated condition is collectible and worth more than face value. This coin continues to show collectors that value is not always obvious at first glance. The 1964 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark remains an important part of U.S. coinage history and a favorite for collectors of the Jefferson nickel series. Its huge mintage, condition rarity, strike quality variations, and error possibilities all contribute to its desirability. Collectors know that valuable coins are not always rare by mintage alone, but by the qualities that set them apart from the rest. This is why the 1964 D Jefferson nickel is considered valuable and why it deserves a place in every serious Jefferson nickel collection. Next up, the 1987 Jefferson nickel with the D mint mark is an important part of the Jefferson nickel series and continues to capture the interest of coin collectors and coin enthusiasts today. This coin was struck at the Denver Mint, and the small D mint mark can be found on the reverse of the coin, positioned to the right of Monticello. At first glance, the 1987 D Jefferson nickel may seem like just another common nickel from circulation, but when you look more closely, you will discover that it carries value far beyond its face value, depending on its condition, strike quality, and even the presence of error varieties. Many collectors actively search for this date because they know that the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is valuable and deserves a place in any serious collection. The Jefferson nickel has been in circulation since 1938, and the design featuring President Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse has become a classic in American coinage. By 1987, the series was well established and billions of Jefferson nickels had been produced. But each year's minting carries unique details that make certain issues more collectible. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is a great example of how condition rarity, strike sharpness, and collector demand can make an otherwise ordinary nickel valuable. Although the mintage numbers from the Denver Mint were large that year, high-grade examples that have survived in pristine condition are not as common as you might think, and those are the coins that collectors are willing to pay premiums for. Condition is one of the biggest factors in determining the value of the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark. Coins that have been heavily circulated often show wear on Jefferson's hair, cheek, and jawline, as well as flattened details on Monticello. Those coins may only be worth face value, but if you find a 1987 D Jefferson nickel that still has full luster, sharp details, and minimal marks, then you are looking at a coin that is far more valuable. Collectors are especially interested in uncirculated examples, and the sharpest strikes with brilliant luster always command the highest values. This is why anyone searching through pocket change or coin rolls should set aside every 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark and examine it carefully, because the right one could be worth much more than 5 cents. One of the most important aspects of value for Jefferson nickels is the presence of full steps on Monticello. When the coin is struck with enough pressure, the steps on Jefferson's home appear fully separated and clearly defined. A 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark that has full steps is much more valuable than one without. This is because full steps examples are scarcer and demonstrate exceptional strike quality. Collectors prize these coins, and they form an important part of advanced Jefferson nickel collections. If you are lucky enough to find a 1987 D nickel with full steps, you are holding a coin that can bring significantly higher value than an ordinary piece. Another reason the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark can be valuable is because of mint errors and die varieties. Errors such as off-center strikes, double die varieties, die cracks, or clip planchets can turn an ordinary nickel into a unique collectible. While most coins are struck normally, these rare minting mistakes make the coin stand out in the collector market. If you ever come across a 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark that shows something unusual in its design or strike, you may have discovered a valuable error coin that is worth far more than face value. The historical background of the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark adds to its importance in the series. Although the coin was struck in large numbers, it came during a time when the Jefferson nickel had already become one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. Collectors who focus on completing date and mint mark sets know that every year matters, and the 1987 D nickel is no exception. Even though it may not contain silver or precious metal, its numismatic value comes from collector demand, condition rarity, and strike quality. This is why collectors take the time to search for the best examples, knowing that this coin is valuable in ways that go far beyond its metal content. The obverse of the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark features Jefferson's profile facing left, with the word Liberty in script and the date 1987. On well-struck examples, Jefferson's hair and facial features are sharp, adding to the appeal. The reverse shows Monticello with the denomination 5 cents and the country, United States of America. It is on this reverse that collectors pay close attention to strike quality, especially the steps of Monticello. Weakly struck coins will show blending of the steps, but full steps coins display crisp separation, making them valuable and highly collectible. Collectors also note that coins struck at the Denver Mint can sometimes show differences in strike quality compared to those from other mints. The 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark has its own character, and the Denver issues of this era can sometimes reveal striking variations that collectors enjoy studying. All of these details make the coin more than just another nickel in circulation. The story behind the coin, its strike characteristics, and the chance of finding valuable qualities are what give the 1987 D nickel its true appeal. Even though the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark was produced in large numbers, the best preserved examples are not easy to come by today. Most of these coins were spent in everyday commerce, and coins in high uncirculated grades are much scarcer. Collectors know that coins in pristine condition are where the real value lies, and that is why they seek out the sharpest examples. Every coin hunter and collector understands that the search for value in common-looking coins is one of the most exciting parts of numismatics, and the 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark is a perfect example of this truth. So whenever you come across a 1987 Jefferson nickel with D mint mark, remember to take a closer look. Check the condition carefully, study the details of Jefferson's portrait, examine Monticello's steps, and always look for the possibility of an error. Any of these qualities could make your coin valuable and worth far more than face value. This is why collectors continue to pay attention to this coin, and why the 1987 D Jefferson nickel remains an important and valuable part of the Jefferson nickel series. Next up, the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is an important and collectible coin from the Jefferson nickel series, and while many people may see it as just another 5-cent piece, collectors know that this coin can actually be valuable. The absence of a mint mark on the 1974 nickel tells us that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time did not place mint marks on circulating nickels. This detail makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark a key part of the series, and it is worth paying attention to because condition, strike quality, and potential varieties all add to its value. Many coin collectors search for this specific issue, and its importance in the history of U.S. coinage makes it a piece that should never be overlooked. The Jefferson nickel series began in 1938 and has been one of the longest-running designs in American coinage. By 1974, the design featuring Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse had already become iconic. Even though the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark was produced in large numbers, collectors know that not all coins are equal. Value comes from details, and when you examine these coins closely, you discover why some of them are much more valuable than others. Condition is a major factor, as coins that survived without heavy circulation are far scarcer than worn examples. This is why collectors seek uncirculated or mint-state coins, especially those with sharp details and bright original luster. One of the main features that determines value in the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is the strike quality, especially on the reverse of the coin. Monticello, Jefferson's historic home, appears on the reverse, and the steps leading up to it are an important detail. If the steps are fully visible and sharply defined, the coin qualifies as a full steps nickel. These full steps examples are much rarer and more valuable than ordinary strikes, and collectors pay strong premiums for them. A 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark showing full steps is always worth setting aside because it represents the best quality strikes from the Philadelphia Mint that year. Era coins and die varieties also make the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark valuable. During the minting process, mistakes sometimes occurred, and these errors create coins that collectors prize. Double die obverse or reverse, off-center strikes, die cracks, or clip planchets can all make a 1974 Jefferson nickel far more valuable than a typical example. Since most 1974 nickels were struck normally, finding an era coin is exciting, and it adds another layer of value for collectors who enjoy searching through pocket change or rolls of nickels. Every era tells a story of the minting process, and when combined with a specific year, like 1974, it makes the coin stand out. Collectors also appreciate the historical context of the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark. This was a time in American coinage when the U.S. Mint was producing coins in high numbers to meet demand, yet quality varied from coin to coin. While many nickels from this era were struck with weaker details, some stand out with sharpness and clarity. The Philadelphia Mint played a crucial role, and because no mint mark was used, all of these coins simply appear as plain-date nickels. That detail itself is part of the coin's identity, and it adds to the appeal for collectors who are assembling complete Jefferson nickel sets. The obverse of the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark shows Jefferson's portrait facing left, and the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1974. On a well-preserved coin, Jefferson's hair details, cheekbone, and jawline are sharp and attractive. The reverse with Monticello should ideally display clear architectural lines, with the steps being the focal point for strike quality. The difference between a weak strike and a full steps example is what separates an ordinary nickel from a valuable coin. Collectors know that sharp strikes are far more desirable, and that is why they search carefully for the best examples of the 1974 nickel. Condition rarity is what makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark valuable today. While millions were struck, very few survive in pristine mint state, with brilliant luster and sharp details. Circulation quickly wears down nickels, and most coins from 1974 saw heavy use in commerce. That makes finding one in superb condition far more challenging, and it is this challenge that drives value. Collectors are willing to pay for the highest quality coins, and that is why the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark deserves careful attention. For anyone who enjoys coin roll hunting or checking old change jars, the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark is a coin worth saving. Even if you come across an ordinary circulated example, it is always a good idea to set it aside and examine it more closely. You may discover that it is better detailed than most, or even that it shows signs of being a full-step strike. And of course, there is always the possibility of finding an error coin, which can make your 1974 Jefferson nickel far more valuable than expected. Collectors appreciate that hidden treasures can be found in the most common-looking places, and this coin is a perfect example of that fact. When you study the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, you realize that its value does not come from silver or precious metals, since the composition is the usual copper-nickel alloy. Instead, its value is purely numismatic, based on collector demand, condition rarity, and unique features like full steps or mint errors. This is what makes coin collecting so fascinating. Ordinary coins become valuable when they meet the right conditions. The 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark proves that even coins with huge mintages can still be desirable and worth holding on to when you know what to look for. So the next time you see a 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark, remember that it could be valuable. Look carefully at the condition, check for sharp details on Monticello steps, and pay attention to any unusual features that might signal an error or variety. Collectors are always eager to add well-preserved and unique examples of this coin to their collections, and that demand is what makes the 1974 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark more than just pocket change. This coin stands as a reminder that valuable coins are not always old rarities from centuries ago. They can also be modern issues from your everyday change that carry hidden worth. And that brings us to the end of this video. But remember, every coin we talked about today shows us that even ordinary change can turn out to be valuable. The Jefferson nickels, the Washington quarters, and so many other U.S. coins hide secrets that collectors are always searching for, and learning about them can make a huge difference in your collection or even in your pocket change. If you enjoyed this, then you absolutely need to watch my previous video on Roosevelt 1 dimes, because those dimes are also highly collectible and surprisingly valuable, and you don't want to miss the details I shared there. So after this video, click on that Roosevelt 1 dime video and keep expanding your coin knowledge. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to my channel right now, because every week I share valuable information about rare coins, hidden treasures, and the coins you might already have without realizing their true worth. Subscribing ensures you never miss out, and it helps you stay one step ahead in the world of valuable coins. Don't just watch one video and move on. Join our growing community of coin collectors by hitting that subscribe button today.